Right. Okay. Cool. Hi, everyone. Welcome to 2021 and our semi-annual meeting. I'm Carrie, if you don't know me, Heritage's Communications and Programs Manager, and I'm here with Woody LaBounty, currently Heritage's interim president and CEO, and he'll give more about that later. So tonight, we're just going to give an overview of where we are and what's going on with Heritage this year in our 50th anniversary. And so we know the semi-annual meeting is traditionally a gathering of Heritage members and supporters. And so we recognize you all as our community. And so after Woody gives a short presentation about our activities, we want to open it up for questions and just keep it conversational. And so please, while Woody's giving his presentation, try to mute yourselves if you're not already muted until the question portion. You can type in any questions you have in the chat, and we'll just be monitoring those and try to get to as many as we can afterwards. So yeah, I think that's about it. And I'll just hand it over to Woody. So.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Like Carrie said, it's just great to see you all. I haven't seen a lot of your faces in a very long time, and we do consider you our community. When we were talking about planning the semi-annual meeting, which often has a program attached to it, we might have a speaker or a short film. This time I said, what we really need to do is just reconnect with everybody, let them know what we're doing, how we're doing, and sort of let them talk to us a bit about questions and what's on tap for the 50th anniversary, for example, and where Heritage is. I just kind of like the idea of the community and the membership model that we've had for so long, and trying to make sure that members feel that they can talk with us and talk with each other, and it's a conversation. So I'm just going to have a quick presentation about where we are and what's going on. Throw a lot of information at you quickly, and then hopefully we can have a conversation and questions about where we're going. So let me start this. Let's see. Okay, y'all, I guess you can all see that. I'm going to assume you can all see this. We chose this picture of, this is 1735 Webster Street, which currently is 1735 Webster, one of the Victorians that was moved in the 70s by Heritage, one of the first big projects Heritage did. And I thought we should show this picture to talk about tonight because it's a metaphor for me. It's like, this is a beautiful building that has gone through a lot and had to rumble its way a long distance, gone through some strife, but now it's going to be put into place and serve its purpose for the next 50 years, let's say. So that's Heritage in a nutshell. We've been through a lot of turmoil in this last year, but we're still beautiful, and we're still going to serve our purpose going forward. So with that heavy-handed metaphor, let's move on.
Let me interject. The house wasn't measured properly, and they had to use a saw to get take off the bay.
Right, to stuff it in its slot. So hopefully that we won't have to go through that. Just fun. To give an overview of how I look at Heritage, I think of Heritage as a triangle of three different spheres in which we accomplish our mission and get out to the world. And it's just a handy way for me to think of it. So I think of it as our main mission, which is advocacy and education. The thing which you might think of saving buildings, advocating for special sites, educating people about the architectural and cultural assets of the city. And then I think, with our two properties, the Haas Lilienthal House, again, a center of education with lectures and school groups passing through to learn about the history of Victorian era and the city. And then the Doolin Larson building, which is a relatively new property of ours, but it's on the iconic corner of Haight and Ashbury and lends itself to a lot of different uses to interpret the city's rich history that we're exploring. So I'm going to kind of talk about all three of these spheres of what we've been doing over the last 6 months to a year and what we plan to do going forward. So let's get this out of the way. It's been a challenging year. We have had all of us gone through a challenging year in many ways, and Heritage specifically has had some interesting problems, let's say. So COVID meant that we had to cancel our tours of the house, our face-to-face events. All of our programming was impacted. The rental income we got from the businesses in the Doolin Larson building had to be reduced to keep those businesses alive, and we've lost 2 of them in the last few months. Soiree, which is our main fundraiser, had to get canceled. It was just a significant financial hit all around. And then compounding those challenges, we lost some staff. Deb Grant, our VP of Advancement, moved on to another position. And then shortly after, a real big blow, we lost Mike Bueller. There he goes. I'll bring him back. And Mike had been our CEO for a good decade, and he had just had so much to do with where Heritage is today. And trying to replace Mike was a big challenge, of course. And I've just temporarily stepped into the position. So we are light on staff with all these struggles. And then you think of what our mission is, it's even more relevant and important today, which kind of just compounds these scarcity issues, you might say. Legacy businesses really need our help. They really need our advocacy, any support we can give them. And we have our 50th anniversary coming up. And how do we do that with less money, less staff? And also, the projects aren't slowing down. Developers and historic resources are still imperiled. Every day we're dealing with it. So those are all the challenges we've had to go through. Just to get that out of the way, let's talk about some good things and how we've responded to this. First of all, our community, you guys rallied to our aid. I mean, I can't tell you how heartening it was, just support in not just financially, but in spirit and lots of just sort of affirmations to us that we were important and that our community wanted to keep us going and keep us relevant. So there was a big response, and we really appreciate it just from everybody. The other thing is the staff and the board really adapted and showed their resilience. We very quickly tried to figure out ways in which we could achieve our mission and keep doing what we're doing in restricted circumstances. And I think we've been actually pretty successful in ways that I think are going to benefit us way after COVID's ended. So the third thing is that we've got help coming. We recently hired an advancement consultant to help us with the departure of Deb. And a search committee, the board is now actively looking for the next president and CEO of Heritage. And hopefully we'll have that person in place by the fall. But look how much I've aged. Oh my gosh. Okay. I also want to say, you know, a lot of great things happened even during COVID. Not only, it wasn't as if our programs continued in a limited way. There were things that just were amazing in themselves and were not in any way limited. So in an artist in residency program at the Doolin Larson building, visual artist Jeremy Fish occupied it for 3 or 4 months and made so many pieces of amazing art and really helped us get this idea off the ground of having this creative corner, you might say. I can't remember how many pieces of art Jeremy did, but he was very much inspired by where he was at Haight and Ashbury. He interviewed counterculture figures to help him with his art and just made us this beautiful 50th anniversary piece of Heritage as the heart of the city for the next 50 years. So that was very exciting, and it's really going to continue, as I'll tell you in a sec. The other thing that's coming forward at the Doolin Larson building is this Joe Good Performance Group will perform Time of Change, they call it. Some of you might remember this performance group did a whole site installation at the Haas Lilienthal House a couple of years ago that sold out. And it's a great thing to incorporate art and dance with historic preservation because it creates a way for people to interact with these historic properties and appreciate them and see them, people who maybe don't think about preservation. And art is a great way to pull them in and really make these places alive. The exciting thing about the Joe Good Performance Group at Doolin Larson is they're going to have a guest appearance by Bandaloop is scheduled. And these are dancers who dance on the sides of buildings using cables and cords. And it's really kinetic experience that I'm looking forward to. And as part of that partnership, our current artist in residence at the Doolin Larson building is the composer that's preparing the music for Time of Change. And Ben is there now. So another great partnership and inspiration at the Doolin Larson building. Haas Lilienthal House. So I said we had to cancel the school groups, the tours had to be canceled, but we adapted. Pam Larson, who usually leads those tours and oversees the docents who do, created a lesson plan for the third grade teachers with visuals so they could get what they normally would get at the Haas Lilienthal House, but in their classroom and keep that program going. The tours were canceled, but we did launch some videos that gave some experiences to people all around the world, actually, about the Haas Lilienthal House's history and what's inside. And we only had it open one day because of health restrictions, but we launched our self-guided audio tour, which is a new development at the house. And then we did have Mayhem Mansion, which is our annual Halloween event, but it was a special kind of safe flashlight tour. And but it was great that we were able to pull it off and got a lot of people in there. And lastly, we had a little bit of holiday cheer with thanks to Dunn Edwards, provided this light show to shoot on the side of the Haas Lilienthal House for 2 nights in December. And it was I don't know if you got a chance to see it. It was kind of a late developing project, but it was animated and changed to all sorts of different patterns. We hope we can do something like that in the future. Another way just to kind of bring, again, some holiday cheer to the neighborhood in tough times. So our advocacy has not slowed down. As I said, the projects still come and the opportunities still arise. So we worked or partnered and helped in some way with a number of city landmarks over the last 6 to 8 months. Some of them through our Heritage in the Neighborhoods program, others through supervisors' offices, in which basically we're trying to get people excited about preservation who don't necessarily think about it. And that's some of our supervisors. And if we get them to think positively about preservation, a feel-good project like landmarking the Trocadero Inn, for example, in Stern Grove, then hopefully they'll have our back when we have a trickier problem. And that's kind of my strategy. Also on the National Register, we've got the Mission Cultural Center that we prepared the nomination for, finally got listed. And hopefully the Juan Gusto Sausage Factory in North Beach is being considered right now. Outside of those sort of nominations, advocacy comes up every day and I deal with it for everything from how long should the observation wheel be in Golden Gate Park in the landmark music concourse to the ongoing issues to get the Mothers Building restored and opened, murals, it just never stops. And it's important that there's a voice on the other side of the table from the developers and the land use attorneys and all the people that are hired by these projects to actually impact historic resources. You need an advocate on that other side. And we keep trying to do that and keep trying to sit at that table. The big issue that's come up with advocacy this year, we've talked about the primary threat, I would say, is to legacy businesses. Heritage was so integral to getting the legacy business registry passed and part of the city program, but they're of course struggling and impacted by COVID. So any way we can help support them individually with their fundraising, with pushing business to them, we're doing. We also nominated a few businesses to the registry this year, including Bimbo's and Dr. Rock. You can see down there at the bottom, a 24th Street dentist with a rich history in local rock and roll. It's kind of interesting. And we're also trying to support like Black-owned businesses like Miyako Ice Cream. And again, just trying to find all those things that make the city special and make sure that they have the support that we can give them. Additionally, the legacy business program, its benefits are being reduced in a sense because the fund is the exact same amount as when it was started, about $1 million each year, but the number of businesses is up to over 240. So all these businesses are sharing a smaller piece of the pie, and we are lobbying heavily at City Hall to address that, to increase the fund, to actually provide more cash benefits to these businesses. And any sort of emergency fund that's identified, we want legacy businesses to have priority because they're ratified essentially by the city as special businesses, and they should get priority over other businesses, is our opinion. Quickly, I just want to tell you about I told you about Heritage in the Neighborhoods is a new program we've been doing. And even though we were impacted by COVID, it's been pretty successful this year. We're very happy with it. We went to 3 neighborhoods and we had monthly spotlights for each one. And we tried to form affinity groups in each neighborhood where the neighbors could kind of work on a preservation project and go forward. We went to the Excelsior, Parkside, and Marina, and each of them has had projects and outcomes that already are visible that we can count on. So the Excelsior, we helped work on the Royal Baking Company as a landmark. We nominated the Italian American Social Club to the Legacy Business Registry with the Excelsior Action Group leading that. And in the Parkside, we got the Trocadero Inn coming forward as a landmark. And in the Marina, the group just formed, but they're planning an interpretive booklet that they hope not only will help raise awareness and pride of the resources in the Marina, but also maybe help the businesses on Chestnut Street and get people in the door of those businesses. If you want to be part of any of these groups or anything to do with Heritage in Neighborhoods, please contact us, Carrie or I, and we will get you in the loop. Lastly, well, it's not last, but it's pretty high, is the Carrie and I have really pushed this year to try to prioritize equity in everything Heritage does. And we have this before the board meeting in February. This isn't just a statement of accountability or talking about how preservation has failed in this arena in the past. We want to go beyond that, and we want equity to be essentially the lens in which we decide everything. Any action, any landmark, any program, we think first, how does this address racial and social equity? And if it doesn't, how can it? So that a lot of that is being proactive. So we're trying to work with the American Indian Cultural District that just formed to try to help them with preservation projects and interpretive history projects. And the other thing we're doing is creating a report card and making sure that we have ideas that we can track and see how we're doing and actually report to the public how we're doing. So it's difficult to suddenly diversify our staff or board, for example. We're not going to hire a whole bunch of new people. We definitely will try to keep diversity as a priority in that effort. But that doesn't mean we can't engage with community and writers and program people to bring all the different voices of San Francisco and use our platform and our programs to get those voices out. So you saw in the last Heritage News, if you got it, we have a community voices column that's written by somebody in the city to kind of talk about these different stories. So it's not just us. Anyway, you'll hear a lot more about equity in the future. For me, especially, we try to do it in staff meetings and everything, just start with equity. So unlike tonight, next time, equity will probably be first. All right. Now, I hope I didn't do a bait and switch on you. We kind of said this was about the 50th anniversary, and I've talked a lot about the 49th, I guess. But this is where we are with the 50th anniversary. It is so important to recognize and celebrate what Heritage has done in this half century. And we had big plans, partnering, big projects, big events, giant soirees, getting the whole city together. And COVID has, of course, limited all of that and made it very difficult to plan. So here's where we are today. Whatever we can do online, we're going to try to do, and we are doing. So we're going to have weekly history posts. We've already started that. We've been filming a documentary over the last few years, interviewing some of you actually about the history of Heritage, and chapters of that will be released online throughout the year. We have a glossy color publication on Heritage's impact in history that we've gotten a generous contribution to create. And so that's a nice history booklet that we'll be having out. And our soiree this year will almost certainly be online in some way, but we're going to try to make it a lot of fun and very, I guess, meaningful with special guests and features to talk about the history of Heritage. Throughout the year, our programs are going to be partnerships on heritage's continuing relevance and importance. And then maybe if COVID allows, which I think it will, around our birthday, which is June 11th, it's when the Articles of Incorporation were signed in 1971. We might have some big weekend in which we have a scavenger hunt where people can kind of find places that are important in San Francisco to them and use that to show about how heritage's work is so important in saving and preserving those places. But overall, we really don't feel like this does justice to the 50th anniversary. So we're talking internally about it. 50 plus 1, we're not done. So maybe 2022 is when we do the big blowout events and we get face to face and we find ourselves and our community all together in one room maybe, and really do justice to the half century of heritage's important work. So that's kind of where we are, and we'll keep you posted as we go. We're going to do what we can this year under the restrictions we have, but we're going to kind of save up our big blowout for when people can come together because we think that's important. Okay, I hope I didn't talk too fast. This is how you can contact us, but I really want to tell you two things. One is I hope we can have this conversation now and talk about questions and what your thoughts are and what everybody wants to talk about and about what Heritage is doing, maybe what our goals are or our sort of angles on things. I can tell you a little bit about me and my priorities. As interim, I basically have two priorities, which is I want to keep us solvent and I want to make sure our mission continues. I don't want us to stop doing the things that are important, even if we're a little restricted or if we're a little shorthanded. So those are the two things that I'm going forward with. We're an advocacy organization. To me, that is the most important thing, that we are that voice for preservation in the city. Okay. Whew, I'm going to stop this.